What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another injury report. Oh man, this is the first one of the year for the regular season. This is Lions and the 49ers injury report for Sunday's game. So let's get it started.
We're going to bite a kneecap off, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
And welcome everybody to my video. Glad you guys are here. And it felt so good to write that. That looks terrible now I'm looking at it. But it felt so good to write injury report on the board. And that's what we're going to go through quickly in today's video. This won't be a super long video. It's just going through the injuries, the updates there. And we're going to do this Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then, of course, Sunday, we're going to get the inactive. So for the next 3 days, we get these. We did the same thing last year. And we're just going to go through and kind of keep up to date with how guys are in practice and who we can expect to see. Now, it being Wednesday, the first day where teams are really going through the game plan, like the Lions today, they really ramp it up. They're getting prepared for this game on Sunday. Wednesday's important, but so with Thursday, right? If you don't practice on Wednesday or Thursday, there's probably a good chance you're not playing on Sunday, okay? So just keep that in mind. If you don't participate today, it doesn't mean you're out on Sunday, but you really want to see improvement throughout the week, Thursday, and then some Friday. I do want to throw in these couple of notes. First off, Dan Campbell says that he expects the home crowd in this Sunday game to be nuts. So we need to bring that energy. If you're going on Sunday, bring that energy. You know I will, okay? You know we'll be bringing it. We want that energy in there. And even the Niners coach said, you know, he does prefer it to be really quiet on away games. Basically, if they get up big, it can get quiet. We got to make sure we keep that energy in there. Let's help out Dan Campbell. Let's make this thing happen. I also want to throw in this quote from Jared Goff. He was again asked about the Lions situation, expectations, and he says this: I don't want to swear here. Oh, stat. Now he's bringing energy to this, but we don't care. We don't give an anything about what anyone says. Okay, yeah, the English kind of messed up, but he was very passionate, and I love this. We don't care what anyone says. It's the internal expectations that we've always had, and those will remain the same. Obviously, the projections out there right now are like the Lions go 2-15 by ESPN. Who cares what ESPN says, man? ESPN's been wrong. They're wrong a lot. I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot. Everybody's wrong. Let's take a look at the Lions side of the injury report first, and then we'll take a look at the San Francisco 49ers. Now, for the Lions, we have some pretty darn good news here. Even though there's a couple of defensive linemen on this list, there was no one listed with no participation, and there were 2 players listed with full participation, which is fantastic. So let's go through the Lions injury report first. First off, Taylor Decker dealing with a finger injury with limited participation. Now, limited is always tough because you don't know how limited the player actually was. Like, how limited are we talking? Are we talking no team drills? Or are we talking he was just out, you know, kind of in and out through team drills? How limited actually was the player? Now, finger doesn't sound super serious, but it is a name to keep an eye on. We know Decker's pretty darn reliable, but our depth behind Taylor Decker is a little bit questionable. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on. We definitely want Taylor Decker because you have a rookie on the other side. You would love to have your blind side be Taylor Decker out there in week 1 when you're going against a defensive line like the San Francisco 49ers, who is pretty darn healthy in that area. So we need to have a guy like Taylor Decker on the field. Behind Decker, we have Matt Nelson, who picked it up a little bit towards the end of the preseason, but of course, then you have a guy like Skipper, who is on IR. So Darren Paulo, who is on the practice squad. Depending on how serious this is with Taylor Decker, keep an eye on Darren Paulo as possibly a guy that could be activated to this roster off the practice squad for game day, depending on how serious this is with Decker, just to have another backup tackle in there. But I hope he's all right. Finger doesn't sound too serious, but you never know. Either way, it wasn't no participation. It was limited participation. So I hope he's good to go. Next up, you have Michael Brockers. And finally, we're told what he's dealing with. He's dealing with a shoulder injury, according to this injury report. A shoulder injury that has him with limited participation. Dan Campbell said he was improving at a snail's pace. We didn't see him in the preseason. This will be the first time we see this guy in a Lions uniform on the field and participating. I mean, this offseason. I mean, you have to go back to like the beginning of training camp to see Michael Brockers. He hasn't been participating much at all, but he's working his way back. And in the words of Dan Campbell yesterday, he is expected to play for week 1, which is fantastic. So even though he's listed here, the word is that he's expected to play. So I'm pretty confident that we're going to see Michael Brockers on the field, which is big because you notice there's 3 defensive linemen listed here that could have a pretty darn big impact considering Cornell is suspended and Deshaun Hand is on IR. These 3 defensive linemen are going to be pretty important. So having a guy like Michael Brockers on the field is going to be huge, even though we haven't seen him yet. But we did hear from Dan Campbell that he's expected to play in week 1. Then you have Nick Williams dealing with an elbow injury. Nick Williams could definitely be a starter with no hand or Jayshon Cornell out there. Now, we do have good defensive line depth. I mean, even going back to Kevin Strong, and heck, if you had to move Bruce Hector off the practice squad to the active roster, you do have good defensive line depth, which is nice, but there is 3 players listed here. So an elbow injury for Nick Williams. We did see him participate in the preseason, maybe not a ton, but we did see him out there. And then you have the rookie Levi. Now, he's listed with a hip. It's interesting. I'm not sure if that's tied to the back issues that he was dealing with, where they were kind of holding him out, and they're like, you know, if he had to play right now, he could play, but we want to make sure he's 100%. Then we saw him in the final 2 preseason games, and he was pretty darn good. It's just about getting his conditioning right for a full game, even though he'll rotate in and out. There's no guarantee he'll even be a starter if Nick Williams is healthy. He probably won't come out as a starter, but he will rotate in. We know that, and he'll serve an impact just like Aleem McNeil will. However, a hip injury. I'm wondering if this has to do with the backside or not, with his back or not. He's one of those guys I would really like to know how limited actually was he in practice. There's a possibility that he was limited last week of practice. This is like Michael Brocker, so it's nothing really new here. If it is the back injury that we've heard about, where he had to go see the therapist, that actually makes me a little bit more confident because we saw him play when he was, dealing with that, and then they felt like he got right. So that would make me more confident. If it's a new injury, that's a little bit more concerning if it's a new hip injury, but still limited. So for limited guys, with all these limited players, it's just about looking at the next day and the day after that and seeing, are they improving? Are they staying the same? Or are they deproving? That ain't right. Declining, I guess. I don't know. If it's limited throughout the week, they're playing on Sunday. However, if it's like limited, then no participation, now you get a little bit concerned. If it's limited, then it's full participation, you're feeling real good. So tomorrow's going to be a huge day for all 3 of those guys. And also AJ Parker dealing with a shoulder injury. Now, Michael Brockers, I couldn't find anything in his past dealing with shoulder injuries, so I think this is new. It's not something reoccurring that he's had to deal with in the past. Didn't find anything like that. So this is new to him. And also AJ Parker dealing with a shoulder. I go back to college, I only really found ankle injuries. I didn't find anything with the shoulder injury. Maybe I just missed it. Either way, I didn't see anything there. So that's good that it's not like a history thing it seems like they're dealing with. But those are the 5 players listed limited. And then we have 2 players listed with full participation. And these guys, Dan Campbell said, would play in week 1, and that's DeAndre Swift. Full participation today. So even though he's technically on the report, it's great news. I mean, full participation, you can't get any better than that. That guy's out there, he's competing, he's been looking better, he's been stacking days, and that's the best news that you could ask for DeAndre Swift. Heck, we rocking the Swift today, so maybe it was just good luck. And also, TJ Hawkinson. Now, we haven't heard a ton about TJ Hawkinson, and we also haven't seen him throughout the preseason, which I guess makes sense. But full participation is great. We do have Darren Fells back as his backup, and we have a couple guys on the practice squad. If we needed to, we could bring him up. But this is just great news with Hawkinson. 2 very impactful players on this offense are both healthy. So that's awesome. But like I said, there's a couple practice squad names to watch. Look out for the defensive line, potentially a Bruce Hector. Look out for a Darren Paulo. And also, I would say look out for a Nickell Robey-Coleman. Depending on how serious it is with AJ Parker, they may like to promote that guy to the active roster to just have that depth at that slot position. They may do it regardless. So those are 3 guys that I would take a look at for the practice squad. Just keep an eye on it when it comes around to game day. They could put him on the active roster. Now, to the 49ers side of thing, even though this isn't official yet, the first, 4 players that you see, no participation. So let's start off there. Emmanuel Mosley, the cornerback for the San Francisco 49ers, listed with no participation. Apparently, they kind of held him out of practice today, but they hope that he can go on Sunday. They're hoping to get him back into practice tomorrow, but they kind of held him out of practice. But that's a big name to look at because it's that cornerback position where the San Francisco 49ers are probably their lightest and their thinnest right now in terms of depth. And we know that because on Monday, a couple days ago, they went out and signed Josh Norman. Now, last season, Norman was not fantastic. Didn't play a ton with Buffalo, but he had allowed a 128 pass rating. Even though he still is that playmaker, he had an interception, he had 4 pass breakups, he did allow a high passer rating. He was just kind of brought in for depth at this point because they're lacking some depth there, especially with, the past injuries that they've dealt with Verrett, but also now seeing Emmanuel Mosley on this list with a knee injury. A lot of knee injuries going around there. He said there's a couple guys on the practice squad that could get promoted. One guy to look out for is D. Virgin, who could possibly take over that role. Hey, we saw D. Virgin with the Lions. We know D. Virgin. He can bring some special teams as well. The cornerback position is very important. They do have some young guys they drafted this year. They didn't bring any in 2020. So they did this year, Ambry Thomas. I start with the other guy's name, Lenore. But both those cornerbacks are brought in this year, but the improvement hasn't been as quick as maybe they hoped. Ambry Thomas missed, time with Michigan too. So that's a big question mark for them right now, is that cornerback depth, and that's why they signed Josh Norman, but there's no guarantee Norman plays either. He said right now with Norman, it really is about the playbook, getting him ready to go up to speed. With Josh Norman, they know he's a vet. He's been a similar scheme, but not the same at all. So he's a player they're not sure if they're going to have play, and Mosley right now dealing with a knee injury could leave them a little bit lighter at cornerback, which could allow us to attack some of those spots watch and have a chance for some of these new young receivers to go off, which would be exciting. See what they can do. Next up, Javon Kinlaw. We all know Javon Kinlaw. I remember him back from draft time. Javon Kinlaw dealing with a knee injury here. It's a good defensive line. It's a really good defensive line. It's a good front seven in San Francisco. He's another one of those guys that can get after the quarterback. He can get downhill, and he is listed as a starter in that 4-3 defense with DJ Jones as the other defensive tackle. And the reason that this is important is because when you look at the other defensive tackle spot, Givens on here with a hip injury. And I guess that's pretty darn serious with Kinlaw. I guess they're kind of expecting him to be out tomorrow as well. So there's a good chance that we're not going to see Javon Kinlaw in this week 1 opener, which is important. They're missing a couple guys on that defensive line, and Kinlaw is one of those. He did say that Kinlaw's injury may be a little more serious than what Jalen Hurd is dealing with right now, the receiver, who's also dealing with a knee injury. So Kinlaw, that's not good for them. And also they have Givens with the hip injury here as well. He is one of their backup defensive tackles. So a little bit of interior defensive lineman missing. Now, good news for them is that D Ford, he's ready to go. He's going to be out there playing. They have Armstead. They have Nick Bosa. They have the pass rushers on the outside, but maybe just lacking a couple of pieces in the inside. Jalen Hurd on here with the knee injury, the receiver, he's got a chance to go on IR. Had these issues in the past with injuries. We saw him in the preseason, and after the preseason, he was a little bit injured after that. So he's one of those guys that could definitely hit IR. Could be one of those short-term 3-week IR stints for him, but maybe it's a little bit more serious than they thought. Now, if he's not out there, it's a good chance Travis Benjamin will be the guy taking his place. And Anthony Lane has some familiarity with Travis Benjamin, but he's one of those guys in Benjamin that you just got to watch out for, because like Deebo Samuel, he's a guy that uses ends arounds to get the football. They use him in the backfield. There's a lot of different things that he can do. All right, so that's just a name to keep an eye on. And with these receivers, they like these fast receivers that can do a lot of different things offensively. And now you see at the bottom, probably the big one is Trey Lance. After the preseason game, I guess he had a chip bone in his finger, which does not sound good. And he was out for about a week because of that, but he's back in practice now. And like Shanahan said, he's out there. He's playing against air at this point. He's not really in live practice. And today was the first day they saw him going back at it, throwing passes with Jimmy Garoppolo through drills. So I don't know how much participation he had in practice, but in the words of Kyle Shanahan, he's just hoping that he'll be in a uniform on Sunday. Now, he didn't officially say Jimmy Garoppolo or Lance is my starter, even though we all know it is Garoppolo based on what he said in the past, and Jimmy Garoppolo's been named the team captain. So we know Garoppolo's starting at the quarterback spot, but I think this is a big deal. I'm going to get into this soon, the defensive film that I've been just diving into, but watching it back, watching the 49ers, seeing what they do offensively. Garoppolo is a quarterback that does what the offense needs, but he doesn't scare me, if I'm being honest here. I think we can do some things against Jimmy Garoppolo, and it really starts with the run game, which we'll get into. But with Trey Lance, the reason that this is a little bit concerning is not even just, if Trey Lance was officially the starter and it was like we didn't see Garoppolo, that's fine, because Trey Lance, to me, he's inaccurate. He'd be a rookie quarterback. Yes, could he flash? Absolutely. We saw Sam Darnold do it, but at the same time, there's a chance that he's going to throw some turnovers and make some mistakes because he is a rookie. Like Kyle Shanahan said, it's just been inconsistent at this point, up and down, which you would expect out of a rookie. But what worries me is that you look back at their last preseason game, they mix both quarterbacks in during the same drive like a college team would do. They have Jimmy Garoppolo out there, then they bring Lance in, and pretty much exclusively every play was a read option out of the pistol. Most times he handed off, but he did take off once and scored a touchdown when they have motions going everywhere, because that's literally their entire offense is just motions everywhere. Fly motions, tight ends. I mean, everybody's just moving around before the snap, and he ran in for a touchdown. Just a different change of pace. All right. I don't care about the future, what he's going to be down the road, but I can tell you right now, having both of them healthy, where you have to worry about that, and the Lions are preparing for both quarterbacks, which they have to, but having both healthy, if we could go into this game knowing that Lance is out, that would make me feel much better, because I know the defense would not have to worry about it at all. They wouldn't even have to be prepared for Trey Lance. They just have to focus on Garoppolo, and I think that'd be much better. Just having that threat, it's just not him starting, but it's having the threat of him coming in for a drive and mixing things up, and the defense had got to adjust on the fly. We have full participation listed. So the injury report did come in, as you guys may see by the stuff I'm throwing up, and I was pretty good. The players that we listed did not participate. They're listing Trey Lance as limited with the finger, so, that'll be something to keep an eye on. But then full participation, Brandon Ayuk, the receiver, dealing with a hamstring. Look, they have some weapons on the outside between Brandon, Deebo Samuel, guys like that. They have guys that can do things behind the line of scrimmage, which makes them tough. Aaron Banks, the guard, Brunskill at one guard spot, and they have Laken Tomlinson at the other guard position. So this is depth. Remember, he was pretty highly touted coming out of the draft from Notre Dame. So that's a name to keep an eye on just for depth of reasons. But I look at the guard position. They run block well, but the pass protection interior, to me, is a little suspect. And I think that's one spot where the Lions could have some success. Nick Bosa, knee, but he's full participation, so we can expect to see him. Like I said, Dee Ford, Dre Greenlaw, the linebacker, and Jason Verrett, the cornerback. He's a name to keep an eye on just because the cornerback position, their depth is kind of light, but full participation. So for them, it's looking pretty good. They got a lot of talent over there. We'll get into this defense stuff. It may come out tomorrow morning just because of time situation, but we'll make it happen. A little bit better news, I would say, for our side. We'll see how it progresses throughout the week, though. That's important. Even for both guys. I mean, for these guys that no participation, does Mosley return to practice tomorrow? Trey Lance, how much is he practicing tomorrow? There's big things there. So tomorrow's really going to be the big day because for no participation twice, he probably ain't playing. All right? But Wednesday, Thursday, if you can stack 2 good days on top of each other, you probably are playing on Sunday, even if you don't participate much on Friday. So keep that in mind. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you, Prep, for watching, and I'm out.